Hey guys, today is February 13th, 2025. Title of this video, Decode for a possible war event within the next few days. One date I'm particularly looking at is February 16th, a date I've been looking at for over a year now. Here's a few images from Pet Goat. And we can see the fireworks behind the Baron Samedi character. This can obviously represent the Day of the Dead, but it can also represent 4th of July or New Year's Eve. So we have the tanks rolling in. This is a war scene with the Chinese yin-yang. So February 16th is New Year's Eve on the Chinese calendar, the day before the Year of the Horse. And we see in his eye here, this can also represent an animal. This is all multi-layered, so this can be different animals, but it could possibly be like a dog, but it's not clear. This could be a horse as well. We're on the eve of the horse, New Year's Eve on the horse. And this other one can be a moon phase. Well, what happened on the day that COVID was announced? It wasn't announced as COVID, but it was announced as a mysterious disease on New Year's Eve. And this was the exact moon phase of the moon. So that related to that, but also when Ukraine was attacked by Russia in the Year of the Tiger, in the month of the Tiger, which is February right now. And she also has the colors of the Ukrainian flag. By the way, she's waving a flag as well. But you notice that this date matches up with our flag. A woman waving a flag, and it's 248 years, 248 days after the United States flag was founded. So that relates to the number 314. Why is that interesting? Because the Baron Samedi character is blowing the party favor out from his teeth. Well, what is this? This is the uppercase pi symbol. And he also has the lowercase similarity of the pi symbol. I've talked about this before because I've also said that the next COVID variant would be called Pi because they go in order the Greek alphabet to name the COVID variants. And so I don't think that this will be that. I think this is going to be a war event possibly on 2/16. And so we have this connection with the movie War Games, 2,232 weeks and 2 days apart from its release at the Films Festival in the Cannes, right? The Cannes Film Festival. I always said before, based on what I first discovered with the connection with 9/11, that I just don't look for a straight 322 or backwards 322. I see 1 3 multiple 2s, just as Bin Laden's birth date was 2,322 weeks and 2 days apart from the 9/11 attack. The CIA, the Air Force, the Department of Defense, all founded on the same day to 9/11 was the 2,232nd prime number. George Bush, who was in office, I always talk about also reversing the dates. From his birth to 9/11 with dates reversed, it was 20,023 days. So the backwards 322, and by the way, he is a Skull and Bones member. And by the way, the White Horse Mountain was featured in the movie War Games. It's interesting because this is the eve of the Year of the Horse. I looked this up because I was watching some of Decoding with Cody's video talking about the connections with the White Horse on New Year's Day, the event at the Constellation Bar Fire, then Venezuela, that incident where Trump got Maduro, their flag has a white horse and other things. And I found these connections with Washington, so I decided to look at Washington, White Horse Mountain. And that's how I found that the White Horse Mountain appeared in the background in the movie War Games. And look at the coordinates are 48 and 121. The Year of the Horse this year begins on the 48th day. February 16th will also be 1,010 months, 9 days after Pearl Harbor, the Pearl Harbor attack. Backwards 9/11. And what do we have going on? We have 2 aircraft carriers being sent to the Middle East. Like, we had the USS Abraham Lincoln. Now we have the USS Gerald Ford heading there. And Pearl Harbor was all about the sinking of ships, right? So as I said, we have the USS Abraham Lincoln over by Iran right now. And Abraham Lincoln, interesting that the date he died was the same date that the Titanic sank. And he was actually shot on April 14th, and the Titanic hit the iceberg on the 14th. Now another scene in Pet Goat. This is Bin Laden shown on an iceberg, but this is also an aircraft carrier. We have the soldiers, we have the missiles, and you can see that this also is very similar to this piece of land that juts into the Strait of Hormuz. Well, this is pointing to Iran. This is Iran right here. And February 16th is one day before a solar eclipse. We do see an eclipse right here in the background. Yes, this does look like nighttime, so it probably does represent a lunar eclipse, but it could also represent a solar eclipse as well, because this video is all multi-layered. And we do have a lunar eclipse coming up on March 3rd as well. But what this also represents, and I said before, I believe that this represents the Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus, just as this image shows. Because this other image, which I talked about in my previous video, that said looks like the Super Bowl Lombardi trophy, right? The comparison was clear. And I talked about a volcano, but I also said this can be an aircraft carrier sinking. So the name of this is called Pieta. And Pieta is all about the Virgin Mary mourning the death of Jesus. And so this represents Mary and Jesus. And so I think this is referencing, because they're showing what looks to be, he's on an aircraft carrier. It's referencing back to this image, which shows what looks to be an aircraft carrier sinking. 8 days later, it's still close to the Super Bowl, right? And it is on the verge of the eclipse. Now, something else that's really interesting. So, remember when Comey took the picture of the seashells in the sand? Said 8647. This sounded like the 86ing of the 47th president. And that was even exactly 8647 days after 9/11/01. Well, the day that he did this was May 15th, 2025, to February 16th, 2026, the date we're looking at, exactly 9 lunar phases and 11 days. So we have the 9/11 connection to that. But look what we have here. This date will also be exactly 86,047 days after Washington, D.C. was founded. So I find these connections very compelling here. Even this, I mean, 6 times 6 times 6 is 216, like the date of February 16th. It's the 47th day of the year, like Trump is the 47th president. Now, it will be exactly 66 years and 6 days after the election of Trump becoming president in 2024. It will be an upside down 666, 9 years, 99 days after the election with Trump in 2016. So that's pretty crazy. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for this video. We'll see what happens, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Take care.